Hello everyone and welcome to today's top tips video. This is a whistle-stop tour of the AQA GCSE English and English language exam on the foundation paper. And I'm just quickly going to go through a few tips which I think you'll find useful when preparing for the exam. Okay, so the first tip I have is to work from the back to the front. Now I know this sounds a bit strange to work from the back of the exam paper, but it does actually make logical mathematical sense because the higher tariff questions are at the end of the paper. For example, question 6, which is the last question on the exam, is worth 24 marks. Now that is worth more than a quarter of the exam paper. So if timing is an issue, then it might make more sense for you to complete the higher tariff questions first, and if you need to rush, then you'll be rushing the easier 4-mark reading questions at the very beginning of the paper. So that's a possibility. Obviously this probably won't work for everybody because everybody has their own exam style, but this could be a way for you to make sure that you cover that 24-mark question really well and that you have enough time to complete it to the highest standard that you can. Okay, so making sure that you get the most marks in the writing is of critical importance really. It's worth half the marks on the exam paper, and the things that you get marks for are your sentence structure and variety, whether you've paragraphed, your variety of punctuation, and whether you've used any read my rules techniques. Okay, so you need to make sure that you use a mixture of simple sentences, compound sentences, loads of different complex sentences, and I've just put a little list on there for you. I will do another video for this going into more detail about complex sentences and all of the techniques that you require for the writing. But you need to make sure that in your mind you've learnt these techniques, and when you get into that exam you know exactly what you've got to include in that answer. Okay, so as well as your different sentence varieties, you've got to make sure that you use discourse markers to indicate to the marker that you have paragraphed and planned and structured your essay, your answer rather, in an effective way. Making sure that the structure of your answer fits with the question that you've been given. So if you've been asked to write an essay, making sure that the structure is correct, or a newspaper article has a very different structure. Okay, these handouts will be available to download from my website at asiaexams.wordpress.com. They're available to download for free, so if you want to get these off the website and print them off for revision, they're going to be on there right now. Okay, so paragraphs as well, making sure you remember tip top, so always changing your paragraph when you change time, topic, place or person. And punctuation pool, making sure that you include 5 different types of punctuation. This is just a really simple way to remember all of those different types of punctuation. You can draw it on the front of your exam paper if you want to when you first get in, so you don't forget about those different types. So 5 is the number that you want to aim for. And read my rules techniques. You need to learn read my rules. This is useful for your writing and for your reading. I have another lesson on this on my YouTube channel, so have a look at read my rules and remember those techniques. Timing is a key issue. You need to make sure that you don't overrun. You get 1.5 minutes per mark. So on the longer writing task you have 35 minutes, and on the shorter writing task you have 25 minutes. If it were me, I would split it like this. So I would have 5 minutes to plan, because you need to plan in order to be able to structure your answer correctly. And then depending on whether it was the shorter or the longer writing task, I'd then spend 15 or 25 minutes writing, making sure that I leave 5 minutes checking time at the end. You've got to check through to make sure that you've included all of those different types of punctuation, sentences and read my rules techniques. If you don't check it over, you are leaving it without the knowledge that you've covered everything you need to. Okay, make sure that you've got 5 minutes planning and 5 minutes checking. That is crucial in making sure that you get the top marks that you can. Okay, so when we get to the reading section, this is what I would do. After I'd finished the writing, move on to the reading. You know you've got 3 sources that you have to read through. Questions always come first. Make sure you read the questions before you start annotating the sources. So I've given this example. It would be like going to the supermarket to buy ingredients for a recipe, but not looking at the recipe first, and that is a huge mistake. You don't know what to annotate and what bits to pull out if you haven't looked at the questions first. Question 1A and 1B always relate to source 1. Question 2 always relates to source 2, and question 3 always relates to source 3. Question 4, the presentational devices one, you are normally either given one and then you have to choose another source, or they leave it open to you and you choose 2 of your favourite sources. So read the question first, then read the source, then answer the question. Then read the next question, then read the next source, okay? So you're not going to forget what you've read in the sources as well, but always make sure you read those questions first. Remember, read my rules, your language techniques, you need to pull those out on question 3, and fish and chip for remembering your presentational devices on question 4. Remember those techniques. I have separate videos for those if you want to go over those techniques. And always remember, the way to structure your paragraphs is to think about what technique they've used, why they've used that technique, and the effect on the reader. Okay, so for your language and presentational devices, it's what, why, effect. For questions 1B and for question 2, it's very simple. Point, evidence, explain and link, okay? So point, answer the question, put relevant evidence in there in quotation marks, and then explain and explore that particular quote in detail. So think about, why does the writer use those words, okay? You need to use inference, you need to think about why those words are important, and always link it to the question that you are given. The main tip I would have with this exam is to have confidence in your abilities. If you're watching these revision videos now, then you are preparing yourself well enough for these exams, you're putting in the time and the effort. Have confidence, you've spent weeks preparing. Go into that exam, know that you can do it, and don't worry too much. If you find these videos useful, then subscribe to our channel, and if you want those free downloads, then head over to aceyourexams.wordpress.com.